The big race on Saturday is the Coral Eclipse Race 5, 2,000 metres at Sandown. The clash of the generations. We haven't got the biggest field, but there is quality in there. Heading them on the ratings is Adabe for Tom Marquand. Mishriff, the international superstars in there, El Drama, but the most celebrated 3-year-old in there is St Mark's Basilica. Graham Cunningham, we haven't got quantity, but there is quality.
There is, but dress it up how you like, Nick. 4 runners for a race like the Coral Eclipse is an anticlimax. Fortunately, it does bring together most of the elements that we want from a race like this. We have a champion 2-year-old, dual classic winning 3-year-old in St Mark's Basilica. We have a tremendously game, consistent and high quality globetrotter in Adabe. And we also have Mishriff, who brings a very rare set of qualities to the table. Top class on dirt and on turf, soft ground, fast ground from the front, from off the back. Tactically, this is an intriguing contest because of the small field.
It is. John Blant's really looking forward to the race, not the quantity, but it is a select field. And Graham's put it there with the likes of Adabe and Mishriff, of course. They've got about as many air miles as you.
Well, yes, that's, might not be too much of an exaggeration to say that. No, obviously it's a disappointing field, but I really like what I've seen with St Mark's Basilica this year. Mishriff, Graham has put it very well in terms of what he's done. And at the moment, the ground is all right for Adabe, and any thundery showers would definitely help.
Indeed, it's going to be fine and dry in the days building up, but it might just be Saturday rainy, so we'll watch that with intent. We'll have a look back at some of the performances that have got these horses to the stage of running in the Coral Eclipse, and start off on Dubai World Cup night, where Mishriff, after his voyage to Saudi Arabia, landing the richest race in the world, came back for the turf, stepped up to 2,400 metres and beat Graham 2 rattling good Japanese mares.
And beat 2 horses who've both won Group 1 races since. One of them, Loves Only You, in Hong Kong. So the form is clearly solid. This is where he came from well off the pace. He doesn't have to be ridden cold like this, but he's clearly highly versatile and high class. I did think Chronogenesis, his jockey, got in a bit of a tiz with the whip. It would have been very close but for that. But Mishriff was relentless down the outside, and the form looks really solid. Chronogenesis, Loves Only You, both Group 1s since then, and Mishriff was just a little too good for him on the night.
He was. Saudi Arabia on the dirt, the turf over at Meydan. It didn't make for pleasant watching for me that day, I have to say. John Blant's given Chronogenesis was firmly my selection, but you can't help but be struck with what Mishriff's done so far. How do you think he'll go on Saturday?
I think he'll go very well. I think the 3-year-old allowance, though, for St Mark's Basilica might just be the deciding factor. I can almost see, despite the fact it's a disappointing field, a really good race between the pair, maybe a real proper head-to-head down the straight.
Let's have a look at St Mark's Basilica at the end of last year, the end of his 2-year-old year. This was the Dewhurst. Since then, well, he's won 3 Group 1s in a row now. After this, 2 voyages to France. He deserves a lot of respect, Graham.
Yeah, he hasn't got that flash profile, I think, because his classic wins have come in France rather than in Britain or Ireland, and we Brits are a bit parochial. We want the brilliance to be shown under our own noses. Yep. This is where he first signalled that he was a real good horse. Mixed messages from the Dewhurst form, as John will testify, but he does show a pretty good turn of foot to get the better of Thunder Moon and stablemate Wembley. That turn of foot, John, has been the key element in both his French classic wins, hasn't it?
Certainly has, and the French Guineas form, or the effort, 3 wide the whole way, was something to behold, actually. The Times guys weren't that impressed with it. And in the French Derby, the Prix du Jockey Club, he did get the absolutely perfect run from a good draw off the back of the speed. But I think he'll obviously get into a very good sort of prominent position here. I think tactically he'll set up well. And as I say, with that allowance versus Mishriff, I think that will just ever so slightly sway things in his favour. But you can't fail to be impressed with what he's done as a 3-year-old.
No, and one thing as well, it's been a bit of a weak year for the Aidan O'Brien 3-year-old colt so far. He's been a bit of a shining light with his trips to France. Now, talking trips, one horse who loves his trips down under to Australia is Adabe, a brilliant racehorse, it's fair to say, the top rated in here. This was him last year at Ascot on Champions Day. Mishriff was in there. It wasn't a great day for John Goss on that day, Champions Day, it's fair to say. But Adabe had his conditions, and he proved what a potent weapon he was that day.
Yeah, this was deep autumn ground, and that is absolutely tailor-made for Adabe. Brilliant, certainly brilliantly placed, both in Europe and in Australia by William Haggis. And this is Adabe doing what he does best, racing just off the speed, striking for home, challenging good rivals to beat him. Mishriff was a bit too free for his own good this day, and he falters. All sorts of good horses in behind. But I sense that me and John might be on the same page here in thinking that He's bound to run his usual good race at Abe, but the ground may not be quite as soft as ideal for him, and he's got a high quality 3-year-old and an ultra progressive older horse up against him in the small field, John.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when we see these pictures here, he was very well ridden on that occasion, close to the speed. They didn't muck around with things. Tactically, that might be the way to go here as well. And at the moment, we're good to soft at Sandown, which is more or less what he wants. But as Nick was saying, there is quite a lot of dry weather forecast, so I'm not too sure it's going to be ideal. I can see him running a good race, but not just being quite good enough on Saturday, but stick with him for the autumn.
Gentlemen, we're going to have deeper fields to analyse, of course, on the day, but it's down to you to pick your 1-2 for the Eclipse.
Jockeyship and tactics could be important. Gosden and Aidan O'Brien, I think, have won 8 Eclipses between them. I think it's a head-to-head between Mishriff and St Mark's Basilica. I think it could be tight, but I'll go for Mishriff to shade it.
Mishriff then for Graham Cunningham. What about you, John?
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go for St Mark's Basilica just to shade it, but I expect what could be a really titanic tussle between two horses who, on the conditions of the race, look very well matched.
Love it. Even though we haven't got the biggest field, there is still that split division. That is the Coral Eclipse, the feature race on Saturday at Sandown.